Welcome back to Tracy Take Tuesday, where we release a mock draft every Tuesday between now and the Tuesday leading up for the 2025 NFL Draft. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we are actually going to be doing Ryan's eighth mock draft of the 2025 offseason so far. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've been liking these a lot. It's neat kind of walking through some different scenarios, some other potential trades. So Ryan's going to go through it here in a second. But before he does, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, tackle that bell, and leave a like and a comment. Let us know what you think of this draft and what you want your team to do in the upcoming 2025 NFL draft. And with that being said, Ryan, take it away.
Let's get into it. So I've been doing a lot of these mock drafts, and the last one I did was pretty vanilla, right? Like a lot of teams took the player that you kind of thought they would, and so I wanted to do something a little bit different in this one. And I'm gonna shake things up a little bit and get a little wild, especially here in the top 10. So we're gonna do a scenario here. You did something in one of your mock drafts that I really liked, and you had the San Francisco 49ers trade for Miles Garrett. And they would not trade for Miles Sanders. But Miles Garrett has said that he wants a trade from the Browns. And so I feel like that the San Francisco is definitely a team like they just kind of underperformed. They can go make a trade and make a move for a player like Miles Garrett and really kind of turn their roster around elsewhere. And so I feel like they're like the perfect team to make this move. So they give up pick 11, pick 75, and pick 111. And then they give up a future first and a future second for Miles Garrett. So two firsts, a third and a fourth, and then a future second as well. Maybe they get more, but I think when you look at edge rushers and what they've gotten in the past, they usually don't conjure the 3 first round picks, and so this is a pretty big haul here for the Cleveland Browns just to kind of start things off. So let's go ahead. We'll force that trade, and then we'll get started here. So here with the Tennessee Titans, if you follow the channel, you know that I just am not very high on this quarterback class. And if you go watch our Tennessee Titans mock free agency, you'll see that we kind of had them go the free agent route with the quarterback position and went out and got a Sam Darnold, and then they also added Trey Smith as well in free agency. And so I feel like if they go with that approach, they could go and just get Travis Hunter here because he is the best player on my board. And then he could come in. You'd have him, L'Jarius Sneed in your secondary in key situations. Travis Hunter could probably play part time on offense as well. Then you'd have Calvin Ridley, Travis Hunter, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Chigoziem Okonkwo, Tony Pollard out of the backfield. And I feel like that's a pretty good wide receiver, like skill position player room around Sam Darnold. That offensive line would hopefully be stronger with the addition of Trey Smith. So I feel like there are just a lot of positives about going and getting the quarterback in free agency. Then you get to take Travis Hunter here first overall. So here with the Cleveland Browns, they just traded away Myles Garrett, a Hall of Fame edge player. I'm not saying Abdul Carter is going to be a Hall of Fame edge player, but he's definitely the best edge player in this draft class. And I think he comes in and can immediately make an impact on the edge there in Cleveland. And so they kind of avoid the quarterback position. They still have the 11th pick. So I do kind of feel like they have the opportunity to maybe address the quarterback position later in the draft. But I feel like that it makes sense for them to just take the best player available here in Abdul Carter and punt down the road on the quarterback position. So here, both the quarterbacks fell in the New York Giants' hands. At this point, I only have those two guys as blue chip prospects in my rankings, and so for me now, you're in the first round prospect range. If you need a quarterback here, we're not trading. We are going with Cam Ward. And so for me, I think the Giants, they go with the best quarterback on the board here, and that's Cam Ward. I think both Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward are first round pick quarterbacks. They're just not the quarterbacks that you've seen in the past few drafts where like, okay, like they have elite traits. They've really started to put things together well. They're young, they have a lot of potential, and these guys do have a lot of potential. I think it's just in different ways. to me, I think Cam Ward has a ceiling of a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's just a little bit of an older prospect. He hasn't had quite the coaching and development that you see out of prospects like a Bo Nix, or I'll even throw Shedeur Sanders because he's had top of the line coaching pretty much his whole life with Deion Sanders being his father. And so like you definitely see more polished quarterback prospects coming out, but Cam Ward, with the experience and with the coaching that he has had, has really improved year after year, and makes just some ridiculous throws. He has the arm talent you want. He has the uh, creation ability that you want in the quarterback position. He just has to kind of round out some of the edges of his game to really become a proficient passer at the NFL level.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so here with the Patriots, the Patriots, they could sit here. To me, this is probably worst case scenario for them. Both the Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are off the board. They don't need a quarterback. However, there is a little bit of a wild card thrown into the situation with the Browns here. The Browns now have a ton of draft capital. They're at pick 11. The Raiders want a quarterback. The Jets want a quarterback. The Saints are a team that I think could trade up for a quarterback. They're in a bad cap situation right now. They have Spencer Rattler on the roster, so maybe not. But then now you have the Browns here at 11. And so I went a little crazy. I had the Browns move up with the Patriots here. Pick 11, pick 33, and then pick 164, I believe. And then the Patriots are giving up pick 4 and pick 144 there as well. So Browns, they have a ton of draft capital with 12 picks. And so I think they can make this move and go and get their quarterback of the future after taking their edge rusher to replace Miles Garrett. So interesting scenario here. Not edge rusher, quarterback. And they take Shedeur Sanders here at pick number 4. Curious kind of on your thoughts so far. It's been the same top 4 that we have said for a while, but just much different order.
Well, so I think with the trade in particular, I could see that if the Browns, I mean, you move on from Miles Garrett, it's the face of the franchise really for the past 7 years or 8 years, and so and then you go and get Abdul Carter, so it makes sense to then go and replace him. As and honestly, too, as you said, he's just one of the top prospects in this class, just in general. So that's a move that you make there. But then also too, then when it comes to the trade up. I could absolutely see it like in this scenario because the Browns already, even before this trade, have 5, 9, 12 picks, according to Tankathon. There are some compensatory picks in there, but so 12
Mhm.
picks as of right now. Then they just got 3 more with your trade, potentially even 4 more, depending on how everything works out. So they're going to have a boatload of picks to go move up.
Yeah.
And so to go up and go and get the quarterback who would be the guy that you would go and be starting for their beat out uh, Las Vegas, the New York Jets, New Orleans Saints, as well. Any other teams here? No, those would be the 3 teams that would really be looking for a quarterback
Yeah.
to go and move up there for uh, that pick. I can see it making sense. I will say, and then another thought overall, though, and just thinking about it, and just the more and more I think about it, what well, and I don't mean to come off as wrong way towards Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, but what a horrible year to have the first overall pick if you're the team like the
Yeah.
Tennessee Titans who need a quarterback. It would be much more beneficial for like you're doing the Patriots,
Yeah.
where you could be like, we could trade back, we could take Travis Hunter, we could take Abdul Carter, we could take Mason Graham, Will Campbell, Ted McMillan, whoever guys like rise to the top. Not saying those latter guys are, but for a Tennessee Titans team, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because it's not like there's free agent quarterbacks or quarterbacks you can really go and trade for that would be particularly great.
Yeah.
Um, Caveat: supposedly Matt Stafford agent is they've allowed him to shop around. Caveat. So, but I digress from there. But then a team that needs a quarterback, it's not like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. There's a lot of question marks, so to say. But there's also a lot of question marks about a lot of prospects
Yeah.
um, that that have come through here. It's just the past couple of years were much better quarterback uh, classes, so to say. So
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be interesting overall. I still feel like as of now, though, this is still going to be the order of the top 4 guys. maybe we'll have to see how Shador Sanders does and like how the overall vibe of him and if there's some concerns about his arm strength if he starts to fall because maybe teams won't want to trade up for him and your Patriots will be picking at number 4 there. But we'll kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah, and he's not gonna test out at the combine or do anything like that, this upcoming or this week. So I do think that it that could come into question. I think he has enough arm strength when he's able to step into throws. It's just those off-platform throws and like the throws to the far side of the field that I really feel like he can let hang in the air. But other than that, I mean, he has some other flaws. Like he holds on to the ball a little too long. He hunts for big plays. But when he is in rhythm and can throw with timing, I mean, he does a really good job in an offense. And I could see him being in that Bo Nix mold. I could also see him being in like the Mac Jones mold, where he's a backup in 2 to 3 seasons and just not able to hold up at the NFL level, just arm strength wise. So I think it's an interesting scenario here. Definitely got a little bit wild there, but one guy that is going to be able to answer a lot of questions at the combine is Will Campbell. It's been debated heavily whether he is going to be able to stick out at tackle or whether he's going to have to kick into guard. I mean, all things considered, the man played tackle for starting left tackle in the SEC for 3 years and allowed 3 sacks the whole time. Uh, and so I feel like he has a really good chance to hold up on the outside at the NFL level. But with that being said, if he doesn't meet that 33-inch arm length threshold, I feel like he probably will kick into guard. Either way, I think Jacksonville doesn't care. I think they still take him here at 5. I think he's a tremendous football player, and he's also a tremendous leader in that locker room. They need guards. They don't need tackles. But I think Will Campbell is just a phenomenal pick here, and he will change the attitude of that offensive line on day one. So I really like that pick there. Here with the Raiders, so I'm going to be honest. I don't feel like I really made this pick. We did a Raiders 3-round mock draft, and people were like upset that we took Tet McMillan. Well, not everybody, but a lot of Raiders fans really want Mason Graham. And so you know what? I'm gonna listen to the people. I'm gonna take Mason Graham here, make that defensive line just absolutely ridiculous. You'd have Max Crosby, Mason Graham, Christian Wilkins, and then Tyree Wilson on the other side. Just absolutely crazy there. But hey, it's what the Raiders fans want, so that's what we'll give them.
Well, it's a real quick on that. I actually so it's like Mason Graham. I like Mason Graham a lot. I think him in Las Vegas would be nasty. But I actually that was one of my favorite videos to look at because the comments were all over the place. Like people would be like,
Yeah,
"We need Ashton Genty." Next comment, like I hate a running back at 6. It'd be like Tech McMillan is special. Next one is like I like McMillan is so overrated. Like it was a
yeah,
very interesting actually, but Mason Graham, I think just overall as a whole as a prospect, I don't think there's too many people that dislike him.
yeah,
Overall as a prospect, I think every team fan base would be like, "No, I'll take Mason Graham on my team. I think I want
yeah,
Mason Graham." And so I think he's just an extremely special player. And so,
yeah.
but that Raiders one specifically, absolutely loved the interaction
Oh,
from you all in the Raiders community. That was a lot of fun.
yeah, no, and let us know what you think of the Mason Graham pick on this video as well. Help out the algorithm while you're down there, like and subscribe. Best way to help out the channel. But back to the video here, shameless plug. This is where I have Ted McMillan coming off the board. Uh, The Jets just kind of got, I don't want to say screwed a little bit with how the board fell. But I do think like they probably are targeting like a Mason Graham, a Will Campbell. They just I don't know. And I feel like Tet's the best player on the board at this point. They could maybe go like I'm a big fan of Tyler Warren. I had Tyler Warren go to them last time, but Tet McMillan complements Garrett Wilson really well, and I think whatever quarterback is there in New York,
Yeah.
I feel like that gives them the best chance for success. So here with the Carolina Panthers, I went with a guy I just went back and watched, and I just really like his game. And I went with Nick Scorton. He's not as like freaky athletic as Shamar Stewart. And he's still like a freak athlete, and he's also only 20 years old. But I just I love his game. When he was at Purdue in 2023, he was so twitchy, so, like, quick off the ball at, like, 280 pounds, and as a 19-year-old too, and just had so much natural strength. He has so much agility for that size as well. He has a nasty spin move, and one of the things that I think Texas A&M did was they took him from a stand-up kinda outside the tackle rusher and kinda put him over the tackle and, really kinda limited his explosiveness, but one of the things that he really showed was his ability to hold up in the run game, and he's a much better run defender than Shamar Stewart, and he's a better run defender than Mike Green and James Pierce Jr. too as well, and I feel like getting Derek Brown back, the interior will be more stable there in Carolina. You go get an edge rusher here in Nick Scorton. I just really like the fit, and I just feel like he's a really good player there for the Carolina Panthers. So next up, I mentioned a few seconds ago that I had Tyler Warren going to the Jets. Well, now I have him going to the top 10 to the Saints. Juwan Johnson is going to be a free agent. They need some consistent playmakers on that team. I also think too, with Alvin Kamara maybe getting older, this is a guy that's going to run block really, really well. He can line up in the backfield as a fullback. He can line up in the wildcat. I mean, there's just so many things that he can do. I think Kellen Moore would have a blast with a tight end like him. And so I just feel like that's going to be a good fit there as well. Also, another guy that I have probably higher than the consensus. The PFF board is not a consensus. This is, I think, Trevor Sikkema. This is his board. So I like Tyler Warren a lot. And then here, kind of rounding out the top 10, this is where I have Ashton Genty coming off the board. You have Ben Johnson there as the head coach in Chicago, and he loves his running backs. You go look at what Jahmyr Gibbs was able to do. David Montgomery also was really, really solid. So I feel like if they can go get Ashton Genty here at pick 10, I feel like Ben Johnson would just absolutely love that fit there because we didn't see it as much in 2024, but in 2023, Ashton Genty was a phenomenal receiving back, and I feel like he could do a lot of the same things that Jahmyr Gibbs is doing in Detroit. So get Ashton Genty there. What are your thoughts so far on this top 10?
Yeah, scroll up just a little bit more. Start off with Asher Genty. Yeah, the more and more I think about it, then with Ben Johnson going there, that makes a lot of sense. And so Tyler Warren as well. I can see that. I am curious though. It's just with how good this defensive line class is, and go to the edge rushers here as well. I pull up edge rushers and defensive tackles as well because like it's going to be so interesting how these end up falling because a lot of them are very pick your flavor type of guys. Even if you just look at the edge rushers like James Pierce Jr., Mike Green, Nick Scorton, Shamar Stewart, those are all like four, and Michael Williams and I think James Pierce Jr. I think they're about the same size. They're about the same type of edge rusher, so to say.
Micah
But
Williams is like about 20 pounds heavier.
oh, okay, but so it's a very wide range of
Yeah,
types of edge rushers, and so it's going to be what type of defensive scheme do they like? What type of player like or motor or what's the usage that they're seeing for this guy here? Like Mike Green is going to be used totally different than Shamar Stewart is going to be,
yeah,
and the same thing I think could be said then too as well with the defensive tackles of like Kenneth Green versus like Walter Nolan or Tyreek Williams. I think Kenneth Grant. I think I said Kenneth Green. Kenneth Grant. I think he's got like 20 pounds even on like Walter Nolan and
yeah.
Tyreek Williams as well. Like he's just a massive human being. So it's interesting seeing some of these average draft positions or because some people have I've seen Mike Green going 7th overall at some drafts. I've seen Mike Green going 25th, 26th overall or something like that. And I think that also kind of applies then too as well. And I bring that up with looking at Ted McMillan, looking at Tyler Warren. Where are these guys going to go? Because they're not like the blue chip receiver tight ends that we've seen over the past couple of draft classes. Tyler Warren's super good, but he's not Brock Bowers. Ted
Yeah.
McMillan's really good, but he's not Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, that we know of. Maybe he is. He went to Arizona, so it was a much smaller market. So maybe we just haven't seen him nearly as much. And the talent around him wasn't nearly as good. So I bring all that up is like, are these teams here who selected him? They're also going to need defensive line help as well. Do they prefer that route or do they want to take the top player at that position and then wait later on and get the 7th ranked player or 8th ranked player at said position. So that's what's going to be really interesting overall with some of these players. And the same that thing actually could be said with Ashigenti as well, and the Bears needs. Like, do they want to go defensive line heavy and defensive heavy focus and really try and get some of these top players, or and then these guys will fall, or will they make the top 10? Like, I could see Tyler Warren potentially falling outside of the top 20. Nothing against him, but just because teams are prioritizing the defensive line side of the ball, which is the strength of this class.
Yeah. Well, and also too, when I had edge rushers and defensive interior guys highlighted, scrolled pretty far down and it was like, "Oh, this guy is 50, 52, 54, 58." And it's like there's just so many guys in this defensive line class. And the running
Yeah,
back class is the same way, but there's just so many guys in this class that are going to go on days 2 and 3. And I feel like the Saints uh you're not going to get a Tyler Warren on day 2.
sure.
And I feel like they could go and maybe dip into that defensive line class later just because it is so deep. In this class, there's so much talent there that like guys that are going to go in the second round of the defensive line class would be in a normal average draft class would be like end of day one picks. And so
Fair.
I think there's a lot to be considered, and this is going to be a really interesting draft for that exact reason. So, uh, let's get back into it here with the Patriots here at pick 11. Uh, Gonna go a little bit with need. I'm not as high on Kelvin Banks, I think, as a lot of people are. They could go receiver. They could like Luther Burden. But I think with the trade back, you have some extra draft capital. I think you prioritize the need here because Kelvin Banks is in this tier of player where I feel like this isn't a reach for him. But I feel like of some of the guys in the first round, he has probably the best chance to like truly stick and be a franchise left tackle. Whereas I feel like guys like Will Campbell are probably going to kick into guard. I like Kelvin Banks. I think that would be a solid pick there for the Patriots at pick number 11. Here with pick 12, this is where I went Luther Burden. This is a pick I've made a couple times for the Cowboys. All in all, just a really explosive player. Has some consistency issues. I like didn't play nearly as well in 2024 as he did in 2023. With that being said, everybody on Missouri's offense took a big step back, especially Brady Cook, the quarterback. And when your position is reliant on the quarterback playing well, I think that can kind of explain away some of the issues there as well. So, Luther Burden, you are a Dallas Cowboy. Uh, Here, so if I'm going to reference our mock free agency series again, we did the Dolphins already, and kind of going through that process really made me realize like the Dolphins in free agency can either re-sign Javon Holland and then make like almost no other moves, or I guess that's not true because we cleared up a decent bit of cap space. But if they re-sign Javon Holland, it does handicap them pretty significantly in going out and improving this offensive line, going out and getting other free agents to add uh, good quality play at the defensive line because Calais Campbell might be a free agent as well, or might leave in free agency as well. So I feel like there are a lot of different ways that the Dolphins could go. But the biggest thing for me is just going to be securing the back end of that defense. That's going to be with Malachi Starks here. We in that mock free agency, we didn't end up resigning Javon Holland just because I feel like they could go snag Malachi Starks in the draft, and so I do like what Malachi Starks brings to the table. It gives them a lot more flexibility than paying Javon Holland as a like a 16, 17, $20 million safety.
Mhm.
So I feel like that's going to be the better alternative for them there. Here with the Colts, I went with Jahdae Barron. Uh, I really like what he brings to the table. He was a really good slot corner a couple years ago, a really good safety the year before that. Then this past season, he showed that he can hang on the outside. And the Colts really just need corners. I feel like he's going to be a riser up the draft board once when the combine kind of comes through and we start seeing pro days and start getting to compare athletic numbers to one another. And so I feel like he's a really good corner and a good fit there. So up next, your Atlanta Falcons. I went with Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall. James Pierce and Mike Green kind of fell on my board. Just again, they're in that tier of player where like there's like 15, 20 other guys that could potentially move them even further down people's boards. And so Mike Green is an Atlanta Falcon. I mean, I like the fit. I think he can play that stand up outside linebacker. You get him, maybe re-sign Matthew Judon, and I feel like that's a really solid edge rushing duo. You guys invested heavily on the defensive interior, and then you have Braylon Trice as well coming off a torn ACL, and so that could be a pretty good kind of three-headed rotation there down in Atlanta. And then last pick here for the top 16, I went with Shamar Stewart. On the it says edge rusher, but he's about 285 pounds. And he has a lot of length. Oh, he's 290 pounds. So he could definitely kind of play like a 5 technique, and just kind of be lined up like over a tackle, maybe be like a 5 eye or 4 eye, and be in between be in that B gap there, and kind of play with like more of a nose tackle, 2 down linemen, and then 2 outside linebackers. And I just feel like that is going to be a good situation for him. He did struggle a little bit against the run and just his anchor and at the point of attack, but I do think get him in the NFL, get him in some strength programs. I would love to see what Jonathan Gannon could do with a guy like him.
Yeah.
So here with the Bengals at pick 20. So I really wanted Malachi Starks to make it here to pick 17, but I do feel like the Dolphins are a potential team that could take him. The Colts, if he's there as well, could be another team to take him. And so he's not here in this mock. So I went on the offensive interior, and I probably drafted everybody's favorite Senior Bowl player here, with Gray Zabel. He's definitely going to kick in to the interior. He didn't take any reps at the Senior Bowl at tackle, but one of the guys that was probably the biggest riser. He was going to be like a mid day 2 pick, and he's going to move up probably 40 or 50 spots to come up and be taken here in the first round. But you go look, they just drafted Amarius Mims. Orlando Brown Jr. is on the other side at tackle, so they really just need to solidify that interior, and that's a lot easier said than done. But I think Gray Zabel is a easy start in that process there. So I like that fit here with Seattle. Another guy that I really like is going to be Armand Mimbu. Played right tackle at Missouri. He's going to have the requisite arm length at 34 inches to play tackle. His biggest thing is he's only 6'3". So usually the problem with guys that are 6'3" is they don't have the arm length. But with that being said, it could lead to other problems like a severely large amount of batted passes. He just may not have the height to be out there. So I think he could probably play right tackle for you. Abraham Lucas, when he's on the field, has been okay, but he's been injured a decent bit, and so I feel like Armand Mimbu could potentially go and fill in at right tackle. If Abraham Lucas is healthy and you kick him into right guard, even better. Now you have another starting offensive lineman to complement what you already have. So I really like Armand Mimbu in that Seattle situation. Here with Tampa Bay, I'm going to go with Will Johnson, the corner. He fell a little bit on I still really like him, and I feel like he could be in like the top 10 range, but he fell a little bit. Just not seeing him play at all last year, I think is a little bit concerning. And going back and watching him, he is a little bit of a bigger corner. And so the bigger and heavier you are, that can lead to more injuries. Also, sometimes against like smaller, quicker receivers, he did struggle a little bit. And I'm nitpicking there, but I just feel like he falls a little bit here, and maybe goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then rounding out the top 20, another Michigan player. I'm going to go with Colston Loveland. I just really like his game. I think tight ends are just slightly less valuable than receivers, but he is much more of like a power slot receiver than he is like an inline tight end. And so I feel like you go like, and if you put them all on an even playing field, he's a top 3 or 4 pass catcher in this draft. And I just feel like that's a good value there for Denver, especially when you talk about needing an over the middle kind of like volume target. I feel like Colston Loveland would be very successful in that role.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think he would complement what Sean Payton is wanting to do. And I think he would be a great safety blanket for Bo Nix as well. And so, unique draft so far. Scroll up a little bit more, go up to number 11. But Calvin Banks going to your Patriots, I can see it, and I think it's absolutely worth the trade back. He's still not like my favorite player, but once again, though, too, it's more just I think kind of a accompanying of this draft. I I still think you need some development, but at the same time, though, too, they're all rookies. Like they all need some
Yeah.
development. So maybe it's unfair for me to say that. Cowboys, they can go in any direction at all. Malachi Starks to the Dolphins, I like. Jahdae Barron, I think, to the Colts is a good pick. We also too just recorded the Colts free agency as well, so that should actually be coming out. Should have already come out by the time that this comes out as well. And I think another sneaky spot as well is going to be the defensive interior specifically for the Colts here. I'm really looking at a guy like Kenneth Grant for them. I think beef up that defensive line as a whole. The Colts defense in general just was not good last year, but in particular, though, they were 29th overall in total yards allowed, 26 in passing, and 24th in rushing yards allowed. And I do think a guy like Kenneth Grant can come in there and help out just a bunch just with their interior pass rusher. So, but Mike Green, Mark Stewart, both make sense considering the situation there. Gray Zabel as well, and Armand Membu, both I can see going defensive line also. And I think it just goes to show how great the defensive line class is. Will Johnson falling a little bit, I think, is a little bit of a shock. But once again, similar to what I said about the skill position players that I said that are in the top 10, it's like it
Yeah.
depends on how teams are going to value these guys. And to your point, it's like maybe a little bit of concern there, but his overall value in Tampa Bay is getting an absolute steal here at 19. Totally worth the pick,
Yeah.
all things
Going
considered. So
going back, I would probably swap Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron in this mock just to uh, Will Johnson is like just another caliber of outside corner. Jahdae Barron has a lot more versatility in my opinion. Just because I said Will Johnson is 6'2", like 200, 205. And so like he's primarily on the outside, and the Colts need a lot of help in that secondary. So like there is some
yeah,
benefit there, but
yeah, they did get Juju Brents last year. They've got what's this guy's name? Kenny Moore, and then they've also
yeah,
got who is the Jalen Jones. So there's absolutely like improvement that they could go and make. But they have Juju Brents as well, who is that? I mean, what he's 6'3". So he unfortunately didn't really play too much last year after getting hurt week 1, but it's like, I can see it going both ways. Once again, though, it kinda goes back to defensive line talk. It's like which guys are gonna fit your system and fit your philosophy more. You
yeah,
know? It's not like Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley Jr., where these guys are kind of borderline can't miss prospects. It's like there's question marks with Will Johnson, Benjamin Morrison, Jahdae Barron. They're all really good, and they had great college careers, but it's never a sure thing.
yeah. Yeah, no, and I really like kind of the fit there in Tampa. They need the outside corner. They have Zion McCollum. I think you put Will Johnson on the other side. Zion McCollum can kind of move around. So, yeah, let's jump back into it here. Starting things off here, and I'm just gonna finish out these next 12 picks really quick because we are running a little long, but. Here for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're gonna go with Emeka Egbuka. I just again really good possession receiver. I think him and Colston Loveland are kind of neck and neck in that like second tier of pass catchers. And who's leading that group. And so I feel like having them go back to back makes a lot of sense there. Here with the Chargers, this is where I had Michael Williams come off the board. They I read it was on Twitter, so take it with a grain of salt. I read that they were most likely going to part ways with Joey Bosa and release him from his contract. Khalil Mack is already an unrestricted free agent, so if both of those guys are gone, that's a massive need on that edge, and so I feel like I would expect them to fill it here in the top of the first round. Michael Williams as a prospect is just a freak. When healthy, he's been pretty dominant. One of the things too, kind of similar to what I was talking about with Nick Scordon earlier in the video, they line him up like over the tackle. They don't really do him any favors in his pass rush, and he still sometimes finds ways to bend the pocket. He has an incredible bull rush. He's also probably the best run defender off the edge here in this class. And so I feel like, and that's saying a lot because this is a really solid edge class. And so I feel like that's a really good fit there for Harbaugh and the Chargers. Here with the Green Bay Packers, this is where I have James Pierce Jr. coming off the board. He just has a lot of speed. Again, another thing that I read off Twitter were some character concerns about James Pierce Jr. Not sure if they're true or not, but apparently he could be falling down some draft boards. As far as his play goes, I went back and watched him a little bit. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, and he is very explosive. Yes, he's more stout against the run than you would expect for a guy that's 242 pounds. But with that being said, he is like kind of awkwardly stiff. Like at times, like he doesn't have the most, like he's like straight line fast, but he doesn't necessarily like whip around the corner of the and like just run after or like completely demolish the quarterback and just like whip around a tackle uber
Mhm.
fast. And so I think that there is some concern there just about his overall flexibility, but I still feel like he's a first round talent edge rusher. So here with the Vikings, this is where I have another trade, also involving my Patriots. But now that they have the 33rd pick, I think it's going to be a lot easier for them. Granted, they had 38, but they can definitely get back into the first round pretty easily. So I'm going to say 33-77 for 24 and 139 is the trade here. That should about even out on the draft tech trade value chart. But we'll just force that. And then I'm going to go with another Texas offensive player here with Matthew Golden. Patriots need receivers really bad. I'm not holding my breath for Javon Baker or Jalen Polk to really improve. They were their rookie seasons were pretty rough. Granted, there are a lot of other issues going on with the Patriots organization, but I think you throw another guy in that wide receiver room. I really like what he was able to do. My one concern here is he, like Javon Baker and Jalen Polk, is that like 6 foot, like 195 pound, 200 pound receiver. So now you have three guys in the room that are just like that. With that being said, he is probably the best receiver on the board at this point, and so I feel like that could be the potential pick here for the Patriots. Uh, Next up with the Houston Texans, we actually just did the Houston Texans mock free agency as well. So go check out that video. But one of the biggest things that we realized was one, they don't have a lot of cap space. And two, to clear up some cap space, they might have to move on from Shaq Mason. And that interior was already struggling a little bit. So let's go and just get the best pure guard in this class. And that's going to be Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama. Just a super solid, super strong, super powerful guard. Going to come in there, reset the tone on that offensive line there for the Texans, really protect CJ Stroud. They drafted Blake Fisher in the second round last year. They have Laramie Tunsil. I think you can add Tyler Booker there as well in that interior and really start to solidify that offensive line. Next up here with the Los Angeles Rams, a new first for my first round mock drafts. I'm going to go with Demetrius Knight. I went back. We actually selected him for, I believe, the Chargers in our 3-round mock draft series. And I had watched him a little bit. I didn't realize how athletic he was at 6'2", 245 pounds. Dude is electric. He comes downhill with a lot of force, more than willing to meet running backs in the hole. And so I feel like bringing him in, like they already have a really, really good front there and it's young too. I think like 3 out of the 4 of them are on rookie contracts. So I think you go add a guy like Demetrius Knight on the back end or on the backside of that front 7. And yeah, that's going to be a really tough defense to go up against. So I like Demetrius Knight there. This is where I have Josh Connerly coming off the board. Ronnie Stanley will most likely sign an extension with the Ravens. I doubt that he will really hit free agency. But with that being said, he is I mean, what is he, 33, 34 now? So he only has a few years left. And one of the big things with Josh Connerly is that he is young. He needs to get a little stronger in his lower half and really kind of work on his anchor. And I feel like if he goes to the Ravens, one of two things can happen. One, he can take that time to develop his anchor and really develop his just overall strength and play strength. And two, if he has to kick into guard to play, I feel like that's more than a possibility with him. That he showed at times, like with an extra tackle being outside of him in that Oregon offense, that he was more than comfortable having somebody on both his left and right. He's a great athlete, and he has the length and everything that you want. So I feel like just go ahead and take take him here, let him develop. It's a pick for the long haul for the Ravens, but I think it's a solid one. Here with the Detroit Lions is actually I have my third and final trade of the first round. So we're gonna go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. One, the Jags, they have a ton of picks. You can see they have 10 picks here. So we're gonna go pick 36, and I believe what was it? Pick 124. And they get pick 28. So the Lions, they only have, I guess they have 7 picks now, but they get to add another top 125 pick there, moving back only 8 spots. So go ahead, we'll make that trade. And then this is actually where I have Kenneth Grant coming off the board. So I think you put him in the middle of Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen. That's a really solid fit. But then also too, you have Will Campbell. You address the offensive interior. Now you have Kenneth Grant. You address the defensive interior. You can go now and really maybe draft a wide receiver on day 2. Continue to address both. Get a linebacker. Maybe go out a corner at some point. So I feel like that's a solid fit there. Next up is the Washington Commanders. This is where Benjamin Morrison is going to come off the board. He is definitely worthy of being taken in the first round. He falls a little bit for me just because corners and hip injuries, not good. And so I feel like he's going to fall. This is going to be a really big week for him if he can pass a lot of teams' medical records or medical tests at the combine. I think that's going to be something that we could see his draft stock skyrocket there. So Benjamin Morrison going to the Commanders. Buffalo Bills. I went with Walter Nolan. One of the things too, we also did the mock free agency for the Bills. They have some aging defensive interior linemen. They also have some guys leaving in free agency. So there may be some cap casualties on that defensive line. There are also maybe some guys that they don't re-sign just because they don't have a ton of cap space. And the Bills aren't really known for going out and just spending a ton of money anyways. And so I feel like you go draft Walter Nolan, you put him next to Ed Oliver. You have AJ Epinesa, Greg Rousseau. This is also, again, a deep edge class. Go and sign or go and draft somebody on day 2 to play edge across from Greg Rousseau as well. So I feel like Walter Nolan going to be a good pick there. Wrapping things up here really quick. This is where Josh Simmons comes off the board, falls again due to some injury concerns. He has a torn patellar tendon in his, I believe, left knee. And so it's going to be important for him at the combine too to also do well on teams' medical tests there. He's not going to be ready until August, I believe, is what his camp said, as long as he doesn't suffer any setbacks. But with that being said, so he'll be ready for play in August, but he still probably will have missed a lot of training camp. So he's probably won't be ready until at the earliest, maybe a third of the way through the season. Like he'll probably start on the pup list and then come in after that. So Josh Simmons going to the Chiefs here. And then last but not least, to kind of round things out, I wanted to bring in a new name here. This is a guy that I'm really high on. I think he's probably worth it at the latest, an early to mid day 2 pick. But the Eagles, they are pretty specific, I think, on what they want. And I feel like this guy resembles Josh Sweat a little bit, who might leave in free agency. So I'm going to go get Braden Swinson, the edge rusher out of LSU. He's not the greatest run defender. He has good discipline in terms of like protecting the backside and not letting things get out outside of his outside of him. But with that being said, like his ability to get after the passer is really solid. He has great length. He has great pass rush power or bull rush power. He has a good repertoire of pass rush moves as well. And so maybe it's a little bit of a reach here, but this is a guy that I really like and I think can come in and play a really specific role there for the Eagles as a rotational pass rusher. Say that 10 times fast. So that is my 8th mock draft for the 2025 offseason. Really curious to see what all the fans think about this mock draft here as it is grading. But Tyler, what did you think overall of this mock draft?
I once again like a lot. I think it reiterates just how interesting this draft is going to be. What I initially thought about, especially too, as you were going through picks like 22, 23, 24, and it solidified it for me when you were talking about Benjamin Morrison, was last year I was thinking about, Cooper DeJean falling, and then you had Kool-Aid McKinstry falling. And I feel like a lot of these guys right here that we keep talking about, I think that's the best way to encapsulate like just the difference in these two classes. Is like last year there was like 15 or 16 like surefire like round
Yeah.
one picks. And now there's really only like 10 guys like maybe that will be drafted in the first round. We just don't know where. Sorry. Last year's class, there's like these 15 guys are probably going to be the top 15 picks. Maybe some of
Yeah.
them will drop into like the top 20. And then there are other like clear first round picks. You just didn't know where they went. Then some first round picks fell out of the round two. This class, though, it'd be like I could see guys like Golden, Booker, Knight, Connerly, even Morrison, Nolan, Simmons falling out of the first round. To me personally, I think Grant's going to be taken a little bit higher. I think that's great value for the Jags, actually. You go getting Will Campbell and then Kenneth Grant. I think that's an amazing draft. But here, though, and this is just the thing with this class is like I would love if my team took any of these guys in like the second round. But like taking them
Yeah.
here in the first round, that's what's very interesting about this class. It's like it seems risky, seems iffy, even too like the Patriots trading up to go get Matthew Golden. I get why you do that, but is he worth losing the 70 or I think was it the 77th pick? Yeah. No, the
Yeah. It
77th
was.
pick. I know y'all picked up the 97th, but you guys have control of day two as well. You can see who all's still available, or maybe see how things fall. And I'm just saying it's like it's different with this draft class,
Yeah.
and that's what's going to be wild come draft night. Is I bet there's going to be names here. I, I know this is a joke. I know this is an absolute joke now between the two of us and on our channel, but I bet there's going to be some Cole Strange like picks.
It's it's a joke amongst all NFL fans.
That's fair. That
It's not.
That's a fair point too. But like, I
Yeah.
bet there are going to be guys like maybe like what if Washington like just they fall in love with a corner like like because they need corner, they fall in love with the corner, and then let's say they end up taking
Maxwell
Kobe
Hairston
Kobe
or
Bryant because
yeah.
they really like the name, or L.A. they need a corner, and then they take Kobe Bryant, and then they bring Kobe Bryant to LA. And then there's the marketing all around that. And they take him at 26. He doesn't deserve to be taken at 26 overall, but maybe what if they just fall in love with him? I say that in particular, the Rams would never do such a thing, especially since Sean McVay made fun of you guys for the Cole Strange pick. But I'm just talking like that's just what's wild with these picks. And if a team falls in love with a guy, it's going to be like I think we could see some stuff like that happen. By last year, Terry Arnold going 27th overall, and that fit like perfectly fine. Maybe he fell a couple of spots, but like we all knew he was going to be a first round pick.
Yeah. No, and that's I think what's interesting, especially too. So like my opinion, once you get past like, so I have two blue chippers in this class. That's Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. I think I have 14 other first round grades.
Exactly.
Once when you get past that point, like so that puts it at 16. So like 17 through like 55 are like all one big tier of players. And that's not necessarily like a bad thing. Like those are still good football players. It's just like those to me are like those guys have like a true second round grade. And there's a lot of them. And so I feel like too, when you're at the back end of that second round, you're going to get good value, but those people that are picking 18 through like 50 are kind of like, to me, that you're all cashing the same ticket at that point. Like there's no difference between those players. And obviously once when they get into the NFL and they start to grow and develop, there will be a difference there. But right now, you like, I kind of view these guys as like lottery tickets, and you're just picking which one you think is going to hit the best. So
Exactly. Like, and just look at I just, like just my last comment. So like to your point, like if you're picking 15, so like who's on PFF, it's just PFF. But like Benjamin Morrison is a 16th ranked prospect. Kevin Banks is actually 15th. And so, but Benjamin Morrison is the 16th ranked prospect. And if you go down to 60, Jordan Birch, the good edge rusher out of Oregon, is 60th. Now, totally different positions, yes, but as you talked about Benjamin Morrison, he's got the hip injury as well, and if he gets put in
yeah,
a bad situation for him, maybe things just don't pan out for him, and he was a great talent, or maybe he needs to develop more. But Jordan Birch, still solid talent. You go put him in the right situation though, and then he can keep on developing as well. Like he's not
yeah,
going to be a defensive player of the year his rookie year, and will probably never be. But he could be a solid sack contributor, during his rookie contract in the right situation. But it's like that's just a big thing. A guy I'm high on, two guys I'm high on actually, Donovan Jackson and Derek Carmen are 58 and 59 on PFF,
yeah.
and I've mocked them several times, both going in the first round.
Derek
Uh,
Harmon actually, he just moved way up. I think he's like number 20 now on
uh,
PFF's big board.
oh, I just keep my laptop open, so let me refresh this. Maybe that is the case actually, because I think he's a guy. Oh yeah, he's not there anymore. Yeah, you're right. He's
Yeah, he's
20th
like,
now. Yeah. So another one too in Donovan Jackson, and this is just I'm really high on Donovan Jackson. I get why people would take Taylor Booker. I get why people would take Ray Zabel. Totally get that. But what Donovan Jackson did at Ohio State was nothing short of impressive. Like dude's been a guard his entire career. And then the star
yeah,
left tackle, Josh Simmons, destroys his knee. You're like, hey, we need you to kick out a left tackle against like some of the top edge rushers in the
his
country.
first start at left tackle was against Abdul Carter. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. It's oh yeah, because that was after. Well, and even too in that Oregon game, he kicked out and then went up against Jordan Birch. He went up against these guys, and so
oh, I
let
did
me see
not
if
know
I can.
that, actually.
Uh,
I know he did
yeah,
in the college playoff, but
yeah. So you get Oregon, and then Nebraska was the next game, but then it was at Penn State. Ironically, actually, too, at Penn State was his worst graded game. Uh, to be fair to him. So,
yeah, yeah,
and you're going up against Abdul Carter, but still, I think the point's still the same though. Would be like Donovan Jackson, I think provides a lot of great value for that interior as well because of that versatility. So that's what's just going to be so fascinating with this class. I bet there's going to be initially some like horrible reactions to some teams, like some fan bases teams draft class, but then it might pan out just because of the value that they got. Or like the scouting, that's why they're the professional scouts, and then the fans and you and I, like we're on the sideline just talking about it and complaining about it. And on the
yeah,
flip side, I bet there's gonna be a bunch of things like, oh, I can't believe we got this player, 20th overall. Like he fell to us at 20th overall, and like the dude's just an absolute basket case, and he like
yeah,
was like actually doesn't know how to play football. He's just an athletic freak. He turns out to
yeah,
be a bust. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fascinating to go and see. I'm all for this process. It's going to be fun it's going to be fun breaking everything down and seeing who comes out better on the other side.
yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. But let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this mock draft here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on what you thought of this mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you have done differently? And other than that, we'll see you guys next time.